Hey everyone, and welcome to Cedarbrook Park Zoo. Today's episode is a bit unique. It's all about creating our main veterinarian center. Now, in keeping with the theme of creating something that is based in realism, I felt that making what I hope is a true-to-life veterinarian health center keeps in line with that overall goal. Of course, we can't have a zoo without the facilities to support all of our upcoming animals. In fact, this center will act as our main intake and health center for all of Cedarbrook Park. Now, it's also going to make sense to have some more smaller stations sprinkled throughout the zoo, but this is going to be that main induction and education center. Now, I started with a plan in mind. Our new health center would be made of 3 separate buildings centered around a large plaza for our employees to relax and take breaks from their guests. The inspiration for this build actually came from some more concept art from Frontier Games. Now, in advance, I had extended our little employee roadway to kind of create that baseline that I can build off of. Now, initially I had thought I would keep the same color scheme going, but knowing that the center would have a different purpose, I opted to go for a more neutral color with more wood paneling to add additional color and texture to the overall build. Now, I've always been fascinated by vet centers and zoos. They tend to act as the heart of every zoo, really focusing on a commitment to specialized care that's not available anywhere else. These centers serve as the front line of animal health in zoos, tending to the unique needs and ailments of a diverse set of animals. From administering medication to performing surgeries, veterinarians play the most crucial role in ensuring the well-being of the animals under our care at our zoos. In fact, zoo veterinarians go beyond treating just illnesses. They're proactive in preventive medicine, something that Frontier Games actually implemented in the game with the ability to research more preventative health measures. They also develop and implement health management plans with the ultimate goal of keeping animals healthy and content. Through regular checkups and tailored care, they mitigate the risk of diseases and really emphasize the importance of wellness as a cornerstone of their mission. Now, on top of all of this, many veterinarian centers act as hubs of research and conservation efforts. They strive to comprehend the biology, behavior, and overall health of various species, and their work extends beyond the walls of the center as they contribute valuable data to global conservation initiatives. By understanding animals better, veterinarians are actively participating in the broader mission of preserving biodiversity. Now, the success of veterinarian centers, like what we're building today, really hinge on collaboration. Zoos often collaborate with wildlife organizations, universities, and government agencies, forming a network dedicated to animal health and conservation. This collaborative approach encourages the exchange of knowledge, expertise, and resources. Many hands make for small lifting, as they say. Beyond their medical roles, veterinarian centers also play a vital role in educating the public. They offer behind-the-scenes tours and educational programs, raising awareness about animal health, conservation, and the importance of protecting wildlife. These efforts foster a deeper connection between people and the animal kingdom. Now, sadly, with our current setup, I wasn't really able to put a guest-facing area for guests to observe our vets at work. That being said, many zoos practice the concept behind-the-scenes experiences, and often a tour of the health center is a great way to further education and conservation. Now, with all of these important facts in mind, it was time to give some life to our health center. Of course, after looking at the initial setup, I modified one of the buildings, our quarantine center, just to be a little bit bigger. This will allow for some additional props to be placed, adding to the realism of the entire center. In total, our health center will have 3 main buildings: quarantine, which we're seeing come together, staff restrooms, and then our vet clinic. Initially, I had placed the quarantine facility in a slightly different area, having forgotten that perhaps a quarantine facility should have some outdoor space. So after some quick thinking, we swapped the buildings around, and it was time to start working on making the facility a bit more lifelike. I extended some parking closer to the center, extended the road to the back of the quarantine facility, and made room for some larger doors. Now, in hindsight, perhaps this building should have been a bit taller. As it stands, some animals, and I'm looking at you giraffes, might exceed that 4-meter height. So memo for future self, no giraffes in Cedarbrook Park. Now, I often forget that when building these types of structures, an actual functioning door is not required. Alas, I did use the archway piece to carve out space for the roll-up doors, and then I added a staff door, which I did not use a door piece for, and was quite happy with the look. Now, for the yard space, I added a second roll-up door, allowing our animals to roam both in and outside as they wait for their quarantine time to expire. Now, I agonized over keeping this next part in the video. Building fences is never fun, especially in this backstage area. It can be boring and you aren't really focused on making them nice looking. So that being said, I opted for a rather plain looking metal beam and mesh fence. Having placed them all the way around the yard, I realized that they just didn't look that great. Plus, we might want to have a gate to access the yard itself. From a safety perspective, this would actually make sense. We would have our animals safely locked away inside the quarantine facility so we could access the yard and clean or perform maintenance on it. And then we would keep them outside while we access the interior of the quarantine gates and maintain them. So I circled back. I used the frame that I had just made and started on our actual gate. I used a few different pieces to make this a bit more realistic. I started off with 2 thin metal beams placed next to each other. This gave the idea of a middle parting gate that swings open. Placed some hinges to hold everything in place and was actually quite surprised with the end result. Much better than our overall first attempt. With the gate mostly completed, I added some additional signage, specifically a warning sign for dangerous animals and a do not enter sign, all adding some additional layers to the realism factor. With our gate set up, it was time to revamp the fence. I wanted to have the mesh anchored to the frame in a cleaner way. I actually toyed with the idea of using a few different parts such as hooks to create a runner, and this would be where the mesh would attach to the frame. I ended up opting to go with the thin metal beam again though, sunk it almost the whole way in and found that I actually liked the look. Perhaps I'm just a fan of minimalism. I almost forgot as well, we need to have some handle on the gate to open it up, and once completed, I called it a day for our yard fence. Now I used the same method for the inside of the actual quarantine facility. Sectioned off a portion of the building to create that indoor shelter and added another barrier door. I don't know why I did this. Perhaps I just feel the need to create a barrier for each habitat that I create, and it's a habit that I have now. I'm not sure, but I made it and it works. I wasn't planning on ever placing some animals here, but who knows what we could do in the future. It did take quite a bit to jerry-rig the fence to make it work, but found a nice home for the door in the corner, and just like that, our facility is taking shape. Of course, I added some additional safety signs on the exterior of the building, warning our staff of dangers and the need to be careful. With the majority of the facility set up, I wanted to create a more enticing exterior for our staff members. And I kind of had a few thoughts on this. Initially, I wanted to run with some type of terrace, and you can kind of see that we're making this here. I used a lot of our conservation board pieces, colored to match the rest of the color scheme, and played around with it. Initially, I had no idea what I wanted to do here. I think I was just kind of exploring and having fun and creating some fun little terraces. And then I actually landed up on having this very unique design. I'm super thankful that the copy and paste piece exists. It's very easy for us to save one thing and then just start working with it. You can see there's a lot of movements and adjusting just to make it fit, and I really wanted to create a lot of shaded areas. Now, to make the shaded areas work, it really came down to the Indonesian lattice piece. Once again, they're flexi-color, which I'm super happy for, and they're very easy to work with, being able to place them next to each other and just modify them to the extent that I can. Again, it's easy to remove and cut pieces that just don't make sense in the video, but I felt that seeing this shaded area come together was important. Now, off screen, I did go through and add a lot of greenery and some seats for our staff to utilize, fictitiously in this case, but it all worked out. Now, as we all know, every veterinarian health center needs to have a name, and typically they're named after famous or noteworthy veterinarian surgeons, veterinaries in the field, things like that. And that's no different for Cedarbrook Park Zoo. So knowing this, I did some research and I stumbled across Joan Olive Joshua. So Joan was an English veterinarian surgeon, dog breeder, and feminist, and she actually worked at her one-person private practice in Finchley, London from 1939 to 1962. So Joan was the first female fellow of the Royal College of Veterinarian Surgeons and the first woman to serve on the RCVP Council. She served as a counselor for the National Veterinarian Medical Association, now called the British Veterinarian Association, and successfully campaigned for the Animal Health Trust to be founded. Joan was also a reader at the University of Liverpool School of Veterinary Sciences Department of Clinical Studies, and she was the first woman to receive each of the RCVS's Francis Hogg Prize and Victory Medal of the Central Veterinarian Society. So all that to be said, Joan Joshua was a fantastic veterinarian. And just like that, we have completed our Joan O. Joshua Veterinary Center, and I'm really happy with how this sign worked out. I think with the little butterflies and the sloth, I think it really goes to show that they've really come to a place that's focused on veterinarian health and research. And I think it's really cool that as trucks or employees pull up into the employee-only section past the warehouse, they're going to see this sign as the first welcoming sign, and I think it works really well. Now, of course, as we kind of continue in, you can see a few trucks ready to go if they need to zip across the rest of the zoo. And you can see some parts that I've been working on in the background, so please ignore that. But this is the zoo. It's a nice wide open courtyard style zoo, lots of shade. And you can actually see, if we get closer, you can see ivy just about everywhere. And the idea behind it really was, I felt that just having the taupe walls with the wood just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough green. So I went through and added ivy everywhere to kind of give it a little bit more of a filled in look. And I also added ivy to our terraces. And, when you look up, it's this nice, lush, green, shaded area. I think works really well. Of course, our first building of 3 is our veterinarian surgery, and it's pretty plain. There's not a whole lot you can do with it, so I really wanted to focus on creating something more unique. And I think this comes to fruition when you think about, those behind the scenes tours. We have our very own veterinarian surgery practice where, guests can come in, they can actually observe and see what's happening while they're touring. And I love this blueprint item that I pulled off the workshop. I just want to say it's fantastic. I could not have built this. Maybe one day I'll get there, but I love the lights on the articulating arms, the large beds for large animals, things like that. I love the way this works out. Now, realistically, now that I look at this, there's actually no way besides the door to get large animals in here. So it doesn't quite meet up with that whole realism, and maybe something we might need to go back and fix. But it's not just about the veterinarian clinic. Of course, we have to have office space as well. So this office space would be used to, focus on health plans, return to nature plans. So if they're looking to release an animal back into nature, or maybe we're looking to collaborate with some additional zoos for breeding programs or education, I think this is where it would all happen, in this nice little back office space. And you can come in. I love, again, these are blueprints that I pulled off of the workshop, but I love the idea of having computers set up, some workstations and whatnot. Even some like a little office space, like a printer, a water cooler. I love the water cooler. Actually, it looks fantastic. I'm very happy with this. Now, as we leave, you're going to see some additional greenery places, and really all it's about is just creating this nice, lush environment in the middle of a concrete jungle. So even though we don't see buildings around, we are a city zoo, so it's easy to say that there's going to be tall buildings all around, and this is going to be kind of like that little break from society where you can come and relax. And our teams have nice little tables where they can kind of come out and enjoy the shade. We have a few more, so we actually have 3 sections for our employees to rest. The next one's going to be over at our quarantine facility. So of course, not much to see inside the quarantine facility as it's just an empty black box, but we have some additional seating areas just out here in the corner, almost like a hidden area with some sunshade covers. And then our staff restroom as well. So we have unlocked the larger one, so we went with the larger building here. I feel our staff are going to definitely need some breaks from all the hard work that they're going to be doing. And then of course our third secret sitting area where our staff can come out, enjoy their lunch in some peace and quiet, catch some sun, and just enjoy the break from the rest of the facility. Now, of course, our last building, and a really quick tour and really quick build in general. I think it only took me about 5.5 hours to build everything. But our last build is, of course, our quarantine facility. We have a danger keep out quarantine, no admittance, authorized personnel only, which is very fitting. So as we come through, we can see this is our quarantine facility. So we have some crates used to maybe transport some animals to our facility. We have even one large one ready to go. And then we have our gate. So I did add a gate on the inside as well. Of course, we'd want to have them come in through here if we needed to get something in and whatnot. And then we have some storage, some food ready to go. So really just kind of a very generic, plain facility, quarantine facility. It's really they're a temporary home, so there doesn't need to be too much in here. And same for the backyard. I kind of just skimped on the backyard a little bit. I just added some additional items. I don't even know if I will place this or will be utilizing this, but who knows? But that's it. This is our overall facility, and I'm really happy with how it all worked out. I think for what it is, despite it not being a habitat build, I think this is one of the most important places that we're going to need within our new zoo. We need one place where we can come and do all of our research. We need to quarantine our animals and what have you. And I think this worked out really well. And I generally love the entire area. I'm actually pretty big fan of what we've accomplished with our foliage. Again, feel like I struggle on it. So we have a very man-made foliage area, and then we have something that's maybe not so much man-made, just some I think I use buffalo grass everywhere here, and used some drier grass as well, because it's just really, this is just going to be more of an area where it would have been pre-made, so we're just utilizing some of the land. We did extend the fence all the way around. For those who did see the tour in the last video, you definitely would have seen this fence take shape, and we have accomplished everything that we really want to. Now everything is connected, it is all working. We did have to place some power buildings just to get them ready to go. There was no power over here, and it was quite frustrating when I found that out, but we've made it work. Now, one last thing to discuss, and we are doing this tour on franchise mode, so I do apologize as everything is paused currently, but we have this nice open area right here. I can't seem to move anymore, so we're gonna look at it from up in this direction. We need to add something in this area. And I'm thinking we set up a challenge in our Discord, and it was about building a food court for our guests. And I'm loving the idea of putting some miniature food court items right here. I think it'll be a good use of their space. I have some ideas. Again, I found a concept image from Frontier Games on some food court areas. So I'm gonna try to build that within this area, and I can't wait to see what the end game is gonna look like. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, leave a comment, and if you're feeling up to it, subscribe. If not, that's totally cool as well. No pressure. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and ciao for now, everybody.